we're going to speak about the famous Baal Shem Tov, Rabbi Yisrael ben Eliezer, very, very famous rabbi, lived between the years 1700 to about 1760. It's reported over. I think he was born in Ukraine, I think, or the Kingdom of Poland in those days, and passed away in area which is now current Ukraine, the Kingdom of Poland, Miedz Yebos. That was the area, I hope I pronounced it correctly. And he was great, let's say, one of the head Hasidic rabbis in of his day. Let's just say, really, really great rabbi, contemporary, and much can be related within regards to him. We know that the greatness within regards to him. He was born, I think to Eliezer. This was in the year 1700. Various different stories that are actually brought about from within regards to Baal Shem Tov's greatness in of itself. Just so many different printed letters. There are such great legacy the great rabbi had left us. He was a rabbi of many great students, which we have to point out. And just a couple of we want to connect this now in this class within regards to the Orach Chaim, and when he was about to meet him and how he yearned to meet him, and just everything surrounding that. We'll speak about that inside a minute. We can say just a few highlights about him. Sadly, he was orphaned at young age. I think in the year 1703. He was only about 2-3 years of age. He would go on to learn in Cheder, and he became actually an assistant to a Cheder teacher in itself, respectively. When he was around Bar Mitzvah age, he would join the Chaburat, Machaneh Israel. It was a group of great tzaddikim led by Rav Adam Baal Shem, really great rabbi. And I think he would become a shamash of a local synagogue, come at the year 1712-ish or something. He was a teacher's assistant at a young age in small villages nearby. In 1716, I believe he got married. Sadly, I think his wife passed away shortly afterwards. He would become the leader of this great movement at the age of 18. But at the same time, he would care for the Jewish poor. There was a great group of tzaddikim which encouraged Jews to move to greater Jewish lifestyles in of itself. He was an arbitrator, a mediator between other people in various different courts, would defend the Jewish community greatly. He took a position as a shochet at one stage in time. He was working all throughout. He was in the area of Mezbis for a huge amount of time, and was in connection with many of the great rabbis in of his day. He would undertake various different journeys, which he was able to effect cures and help with in regards to eroding, let's say, shadim. And this is what's actually reported over. There was a Gudat Ohalei Tzadikim, an organization which restored many graves of Tzadikim in Ukraine, I think including the Baal Shem Tovs. And there's just an extra added point with regards to him. A guest house and synagogue are located now currently next to the Ohel, the tent of the Baal Shem Tov. His synagogue in the village proper is used, has been restored in recent years. Synagogues are used by various different visitors all over the world. Now, he was, let's just say, took sides with various different great Gemara educators, Talmudists, in disputes against, let's say, the Sabbatinian movement. We know how destructive that Sabbatinian movement was. So he was very much like fighting against it. And there's just countless stories with regards to the greatness of the Baal Shem Tov. But as a special thing in today's class, we're going to use a couple of different excellent articles, especially from Crown Heights website, which gives a story with regard to how he tried to meet the famous Orach Chaim HaKadosh, Rabbi Chaim ibn Attar. I believe he passed away himself in the year 1743. He lived very much at that stage in time when they were there. I think the famous Baal Shem Tov would one time attempt to travel to the land of Israel to meet with the Orach Chaim. The Baal Shem Tov explained that the two of them have different parts of Mashiach's neshama, and if they met, Mashiach will come and redeem the Jewish people. This actually is, I'm using the crownheights.info website over here. And they didn't actually meet at the end. And the Baal Shem Tov, at that stage in time, was stranded on an island until he was able to, let's say, board a boat that took him back to Turkey. he would then celebrate that Pesach in Istanbul, and he would save the Jewish community over there from let's say, a terrible decree that was potentially going to happen. His brother-in-law of the Baal Shem Tov was Rabbi Gershon Kitov, very, very great rabbi. I think he himself did meet with the Or HaChaim. Now, I think the Baal Shem Tov spoke in great terms of the greatness of the Or HaChaim, that his Talmud, the Tzaddik, I think, was Rabbi Pinchas Koritzer, instructed his sons and grandsons. They happened to be the owner of the Slavita press, to print a Chumash with this explanation and reprint it every year. I think very interesting enough. So that's another tidbit. But he was really, really great rabbi. And I think, just going back to Rabbi Chaim Ibn Attar, he was born himself in the year 1696. He was a very great rabbi. I think his magnificent work was the Mikraot Gedolot, which is one of the digests of commentaries on the whole Torah, and it's a very, 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 very popular, very well used. I'd recommend everyone to look back at the video we did within regards to Or HaChaim HaKadosh about a year ago or something. Now, the more stories can actually associate the famous Baal Shem Tov to the Or HaChaim HaKadosh. I believe one time a famous story of the Baal Shem Tov, this is going to actually illustrate the greatness of the Or HaChaim. The Zohar teaches us that the highest point of Shabbat, let's say, and the entire year is called the Ra'aba, the Ra'abin. This is the desire of desires, and it happens for each person after the Mincha Tfilat, Mincha prayer. At that particular time, the Baal Shem Tov washed his hands to eat the holy third meal. He then paused for a few moments and declared, "Alas, the great Or HaChaim, the light of the West, Eretz Yisrael, has passed away." They say, some would say the terminology, the Western lamp, alluding to the middle candle of the menorah. His students were puzzled and asked him how he knew about that. And the Baal Shem Tov replied, "There's a supremely holy secret about washing the hands that is revealed to only one individual at a generation. This was Or HaChaim, and now it was revealed to me from above. That's how I know." The Baal Shem Tov also revealed that the Or HaChaim had a spark of Mashiach himself. Not only that, but if both of them could ascend to Eretz Yisrael, they could bring the Geula, as we mentioned a few minutes ago. Now, the keppah of the famous Or HaChaim HaKadosh is actually situated on Har HaZeitim, also known as Mount of Olives burial plot. Well, I think it's a pilgrimage area site for Jews of all denominations in modern day. I think, in fact, during the period of the Jordanian domain of the Mount of Olives, many graves, unfortunately, were desecrated and destroyed. The enemies wished to build a road passing by that cemetery. It happened that one of the Jordanian soldiers tried to destroy the grave of the Or HaChaim, but when his hammer hit the grave, it slipped from his right hand into his head, killing him. Undeterred, one of the Jordanians came with a bulldozer to the grave of the Or HaChaim. As it touched the holy grave, it flipped and fell in the adjacent Kidron Valley, killing the driver. That's when the Arabs realized there was something to that holy grave and left it in place. So I thought I'll connect this special video with regards to Baal Shem Tov. It happens to be the Baal Shem Tov's Hilula. It was on Shavuot, which was yesterday, so I thought it's an appropriate time to speak about him. He had many, many great students, Baal Shem Tov, and among them was Rav Dov Ber of Mezerich, Rav Zev Wolf Kitzes of Medvish, Rabbi Yaakov Yosef of Polon, Rabbi Moshe Chaim Ephraim of Sudikov, Rabbi Baruch of Medvish, and Rabbi Nachman of Horodenka. Very, very great rabbi. He was a Hasidic leader himself. It's great, let's just say, it's reported that he didn't necessarily leave any books, but a Kabbalistic commentary on the 107th Tehillim, chapter of Tehillim, ascribed to him, I think in the year 1804, for example. Sefer Rabbi Yisrael Baal Shem Tov, I think is also, I'm not too sure of the genuinity within regards to that, but there was so many stories. Actually, they say an opportune time to state over stories within regards to the famous Baal Shem Tov happens to be on Motzei Shabbat, especially. I'm recording this actually at the time of Isru Chag, so maybe it's also a very good time period to actually state within regards to the greatness of the Baal Shem Tov, the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov, and much more. You know, it's just absolute amazing. He was known by the acronym of BESHT, It was the Eastern European 18th century founder of the Hasidic movement. He happened to be in 1700. He was a leader that revolutionized Jewish thought and breathed new life into, let's say, a fainting nation at that point in time. The effects of his teaching actually can be still felt today, both by direct followers known as Hasidim and by followers of all other streams of Jewish thought who've been deeply impacted by the teachings and philosophy. I think it happened to be during the late 17th century, European Jewry was still reeling. Obviously, there was devastation wrought by the Chmelnytsky pogroms of 5408 and 5409. This left tens of thousands dead of Jewish people. They were grief-stricken. There was also the infamous Shabtai Tzvi, led thousands of despairing Jews to believe that he was a long-awaited Moshiach, destined to redeem them, and they realized the fraud that was behind it, and there was the bitterness within regard to that, and just the greatness of when the Baal Shem Tov came about, that the incredibleness afterwards was absolutely phenomenal. Only at 5 years of age, sadly, both his mother and father passed away, and he was actually addressed by his bedside when his father told him, "Fear no one but God." That was the message he gave to the Baal Shem Tov. Love every Jew with all your heart and soul, no matter who he is. And these two directives, let's just say, would serve as a basis of Rabbi Yisrael's service of Hashem and future teachings in of itself. He would work, as we stated before, as a teacher's assistant in the Hayders, in various different villages. He really did. He was a great tzaddik of his time. I think on his 16th birthday, it's reported that Eliyahu Hanavi, Elijah the prophet, actually appeared to him and described to him the great effects the prayers of simple folk had in heaven. So he was addressed by them. I think when he was 18 years of age, he got married, as we said before. Sadly, she passed away soon after the marriage. And Rabbi Yisrael was hired as a teacher shortly afterwards in the Klotz Cheder. And he had, let's just say, Rabbi Yisrael, the Baal Shem Tov's deep insight into human nature shined really in of itself. I think come what the year 1718, he would move to the town of Brody. He was once again hired as a teacher. Rabbi Yisrael asked to tutor a young orphan who had been adopted by the famous Rabbi Gershon Kitov. Obviously, I think he was his brother-in-law, if I'm not mistaken. But Rabbi Yisrael would have his sister married to Rabbi Gershon. I think, so there would be a family connection, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not too sure if it was a brother-in-law or how it worked out. And Rabbi Yisrael spent a short time in Brody and would move on afterwards to another place. I think they would settle in a village deep in the Carpathian Mountains to the east. He would spend most of his time there, secluded in study and meditation. I think they would work in the mining clay and lime business. I think, and there was neighboring villages over there. It's actually interesting. The Baal Shem Tov would later remember the 7 years in the Carpathian Mountains as being the most enjoyable period of his life. He'll spend 7 years there. I think when he was 26 years of age, the ancient prophet Achia Hashiloni, who had taught Torah to Eliyahu the prophet some 2,500 years earlier, would actually appear to him and taught Rabbi Yisrael the secrets of Torah, starting that day with the first words of the Torah, Bereshit, and ending exactly 10 years later with the last words of the Torah. I think come what 1730, Rabbi Yisrael would work as a shochet, as I said before, and would soon to manage a tavern in Tlost that his brother-in-law had bought for him. I think he would spend time in the mountains. He came into contact with local villagers, very much, and much more can be related within regards to it. He was able to cure his patients' physical illnesses. He sought to heal their ailing spirits. Rabbi Yisrael taught his patients the importance of Torah places on optimism and joy and encouraged them in the service of God. I think on his 36th birthday, it happened in 1734, he would expand his circle of influence, helping patients one at a time, very much so. And as we said before, his communication with Achia Shiloni, the greatness within regards to Baal Shem Tov really began to shine. I think in the year 1740, when I think he felt that his following was sufficiently strong, the famous Baal Shem Tov moved to the center of Hasidim, to the town of Mezibush, where he would live there the rest of his life. Many of the greatest Jewish minds of the generation came to study in the court of the Baal Shem Tov, respectively. Rabbi Yaakov Yosef of Pulna, Rabbi Pinchas of Koritz, Rabbi Dov Ber. Many of the great rabbis would actually study under him and surround themselves by him. The academic geniuses would cling to his every single word. I think in 1746, the Baal Shem Tov had a vision wherein he ascended to heaven and entered the chamber of Mashiach. The Baal Shem Tov asked Mashiach, "When will the master come?" Mashiach responded, "When your wellsprings, the teaching of Hasidism, will burst forth to the farthest extremes." For a detailed, very interesting enough, and much more can be said about him. And around that specific time period, he gained a reputation for performing miracles in order to help Jews in dire straits to teach his students profound lessons. There's many tales or stories told of the Baal Shem Tov's, let's say, amazing ability, let's just say supernatural ability to do cures for desperately ill, enable hopelessly barren couples to have children. In many stories, Baal Shem Tov is said to have miraculously traversed vast distances in unusually short times, which is known as Kfitzat HaDerech, popularly. He passed away in 1760 and was close to his most devoted students at points in time. And there'll be a vacuum in leadership, which was initially filled by his son, Rabbi Tzvi Hirsch. But on the first anniversary of Baal Shem Tov's passing, Rabbi Tzvi Hirsch announced that his father had appeared to him in a dream and instructed him to transfer leadership to the Baal Shem Tov student, Rabbi Dov Ber. And he soon moved to Mezrich, establishing it, let's just say, as the new center of Hasidism, and began to be known as a Magid of Mezrich, respectively. So very interesting. Just a few highlights with regards to Baal Shem Tov's life. I recommend everyone to learn more within regards to him. Now, friends, we're a community here. We're learning about the great rabbis of yesteryear. Please subscribe to the channel now. We're near 7,000 subscribers, which is a phenomenal achievement. So wishing you all well. Take care, and thanks very much for watching.